Welcome to another episode of the APL Spotlight Series. Incredible guests the world over with amazing insights, experiences, skills, and they're often helping others. We have a lot of healers on this show. We've had New York Times bestselling authors, Good Morning America reporter, White House physician to the US president, the youngest Delta Force operator ever admitted to Delta Force, and many others, including a Green Beret UFO whistleblower on the tech side. Today, coming to us, veteran UFO researcher, 30 plus books, so an author as well, speaker. I mean, he's been at this a long time. He loves to share on air. So he's got an incredible show on YouTube alone. I've got to cheat, 9.8 million views on his YouTube channel, probably an audience around 55, almost 60,000. And this is Preston Dennett coming to us from the United States. Great to see you, Preston. Great to meet. We got a chance to just talk a little bit before the show.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. It's an honor. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you very much. And you've been at this a long time. You've been just simply paying attention. I think I saw in the notes it was around 1986 or so when you decided you were going to look more closely at UFOs, the paranormal, and so on. Had you been having experiences or noticed stuff before that, and it finally just culminated where you were like, I'm going to spend more time? Can you take us through how did you get into this?
Actually, I was a skeptic. I'd had a few psychic things, paranormal happen to me, but despite that, I kind of explained them away, shelved them, refused to look at them. Really, my brother, when I was 13 years old, my older brother Mark, came running into the house saying he'd seen a UFO, and I didn't believe him, and I didn't want to hear it, so I just ignored that as well. Everything changed for me in 1986, November 17. I'll never forget that day. There was a report on the news about a pilot who had seen a UFO. And that encouraged me to go back to my brother Mark and ask him what he thought he saw. And of course, he blew my mind. I was now ready to listen. He described a very close-up sighting he had with two friends, so it wasn't just him. That's what really opened the door for me. I started asking other people, found out quite a few people in my family, my friends, my coworkers had really dramatic encounters, and not just UFOs, but ghosts, near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, clairvoyance, telepathy, telekinesis, levitation. That was a shocker. So that really changed my world completely. I mean, I was kind of devastated for a year or two there because my whole belief system collapsed and I had to really rebuild everything. But I'm super happy about it. I did start having my own encounters. I sought them out, really. I was looking for UFOs, eventually saw them, for ghosts, saw those too. Uh, Found out about out-of-body experiences, astral projection. I pursued that vigorously and actually got really good at it. So yeah, my whole life completely changed. I've never looked back since.
Why don't you take us through one of those experiences? It could be your brother's, or it could be one of your own. What is jumping to the forefront for you?
Well, one experience I had that was very cool. I'd seen a number of UFOs, but they were mostly unexplained lights, and I really wanted something a little more, because somewhat ambiguous when you see something unexplained in the sky. But I started to have some communication from some of these objects, some of these, what I think are probably craft, piloted by ETs. But one that really comes to mind was such a heartwarming and personal message I got. I was driving along the 405 freeway in Los Angeles, heading home to LA, or Reseda, actually, outside of LA, from San Diego, which is a drive I've done 100 times. I know it well. It was late at night. The freeway was pretty crowded. We're all moving at around 70 miles per hour when I noticed a very large globe of light over the freeway. Now, it was a cloudy night with a low cloud ceiling. And I'm thinking, well, what the heck is that? Because I know this area well enough that there was nothing like that over the freeway. Certainly not when I drove down. So I'm getting closer and closer to it, and I'm realizing it's not attached to anything. No one else seems to be reacting to this. But again, we're all, you have to pay attention when you're driving in an LA. It's quite challenging, I should say. So I drive almost right under this thing, and that's when I realized, okay, this is different. This is unusual. This is unexplained. What is this thing? And I got a mental message from it, and it was clear. It wasn't out loud or in English, it was a knowing. And it said very clearly, unmistakably, your niece has just been born. My sister-in-law was pregnant with my brother's child, and I didn't know the due date. I don't think that was the due date, but I'll never forget July 9th. Uh, of course, I drove home and found out that she was, in fact, born that day. And that was a personal message for me that was very cool and just really amazing to me that that happened.
Well, later we're going to get into the whole concept of disclosure, and there's a lot of organizations, people out there who have a stake in how that unwinds and stuff like that. But I'd like to keep on the topic of just life that's around us or within us. Maybe we can give you some choices here and where to follow up. There's the concept of interdimensionality, and whether we're talking a Pleiadian showing up in front of you, but they don't have to have physical form in that concept. There's the concept of just different beings of different types, Lyrans, people from Andromeda, Orion, Arcturians, and so on, beings of light, light beings, almost like a different category. The only way I know how to describe it is if angels are like dolphins, uh, light beings are like whales. How do you like to try to paint the landscape? Have you met a bunch of different figures, like maybe up close and personal? Do you have a way you like to try to handle this topic? Has it been all over the map since you've been paying attention more?
Well, I've certainly interviewed a lot of people who've had these experiences, and having had my own, including a fully conscious on-board encounter, I've kind of moved from belief to actual personal knowledge. So it's a matter of knowing at this point. Uh, there are all kinds of theories out there. People try to explain ETs as time travelers from the future, and intelligence wearing different masks. There's a whole school of thought that they're demons, which of course I don't prescribe to. I've researched that subject in depth, and while I think it's real, it's certainly not this. Uh, Also, of course, interdimensional beings. And my answer to that is, well, yes, certainly they're interdimensional. We ourselves are interdimensional beings. And I think all entities on this planet and throughout the universe are probably interdimensional. That doesn't preclude them being extraterrestrial. It's my assessment that they are people very much like us, and that it's a mistake to call them alien because that would leave us here alone on this planet and everyone else out there is different from us somehow. And I'm not so sure that that's true because what we're seeing almost universally are humanoids. Of course, we do have grays and mantids and tall whites and little blue beings and so forth. But some are human looking, just like us, which of course raises all kinds of implications about who we are and our relationship to these guys, which I think is much closer than perhaps even people within the UFO community believe. And that is the message that a lot of contactees get, is that we are you, you are us, we are one. That really resonates with me. And I think what we're seeing is that ETs are not different from us. We share a common ancestry. We share a common heritage. We truly are all one. So while we do love labels, and that helps us to sort of categorize and feel like we've got a handle on things, I think really they're just people very much like us, living on other planets perhaps, and perhaps more technologically evolved, psychically advanced, certainly morally and ethically advanced, but absolutely very much like us.
Beautiful. And with a little less human thinking. How about that? Okay, Preston, why don't you take us through a up close and personal experience, or it could be a lucid dream or dream time moment that you remember. Can you give us another one of those up close and personal encounters?
I've had quite a few. One of my very early ones that kind of woke me up was following the death of my mother.
Hmm.
She died at quite a young age, 49. which was, of course, incredibly devastating for our family. 6 kids in my family, so we're a pretty large and very close family. That was when I was a skeptic, but it was just a few weeks after she passed that my father was driving up in the car, and the whole family was there, all our friends, for the service that we were holding for her. And I saw my mother in the front seat of the car, sitting next to my dad. Now, he wasn't reacting, nobody was reacting. The car drove up right next to me, so maybe 2, 3 feet away, and I'm looking at what is clearly my mother. She had a very good posture. She was a very beautiful woman, looked very much like Audrey Hepburn, actually. Uh, so I'm staring at her in absolute wonder and astonishment, and looking at the people on either side of me who are not reacting. So thinking I'm hallucinating from grief, I didn't say anything. Really thought that this was just me losing my mind. Of course, now hindsight is a beautiful thing. I realize I was seeing her spirit. So that has become a really special moment for me because it was not long after she passed. I did start having pre-lucid dreams. I'm not sure I would call them dreams, where she would come into my room and try to comfort me and explain that she was fine. And I'd always wake up and be like, "Mom, you're dead." And she would just kind of smile and say, "No, no, I'm all right," telepathically, really. And finally, this kind of transformed into actual astral projection experiences where she would come to me and I got to visit her. And eventually, this took some work and time. She took me to the other side and I got to visit what we would call the heavenly realms. So that was a very, there's always a silver lining in every tragic event in our lives. And that one was such a beautiful silver lining. It changed my life. And she was able to, and I still see her to this day, have these incredible visits with her on the other side.
Oh, I love it. I lost my dad in 1970 when I was 2, and it was his time to go. Navy fighter pilot type off of Italy, night crash. And then my mom when I was turning 23, and she was probably 47 or so. So I can relate, and they are around. I've had interactions chatting back and forth, but I've had people like at a Walmart or a Target be able to see them directly, and so it's comforting knowing they're around for sure. Let's back up and let's talk the big picture. There's a lot of people watching who may have had their own experiences, but they haven't really figured out where to categorize, compartmentalize, or put that experience. There's a lot of people on TV, Pentagon, this association, that association, scientists, and so on that are, dribs and drabs, a lot more info than ever before, a lot more photographs being released. Can you handle, talk about for us? Or package up the whole concept of disclosure, even the movie that came out. I haven't seen it yet. What's your take on where society is, humanity? Are we ready for more compassion, kindness, and having beautiful neighbors? A little less rat race up here. What's your big picture take on everything?
This is a very complicated issue, and there's a lot to unpack, certainly. When I got involved in this field, there was all kinds of rumors that disclosure was about to happen. This was back in the late 1980s. And of course, it didn't. And over the years, there was really no movement whatsoever in official circles towards disclosure. That all changed around 2016 when we started to have congressional hearings. And we started to get some announcements from officialdom that there is validity to this subject. So that was unprecedented, really, and really encouraging. But ultimately, it's not disclosure. While we have had file releases uh, of films and documents, having researched this field for a very long time, there's been incidents such as the Roswell UFO crash in 1947, the Malmstrom incident in Montana at Malmstrom Air Force Base, where UFOs showed up and basically gave us a warning about the dangers of nuclear missiles, shut down our intercontinental ballistic missiles for a short time. They didn't destroy them, they didn't damage them, they just shut them down. There was a Capitol flyover, of course, in 1952. And our military, our government has yet to acknowledge any of those incidents.
Mm,
And to me, until and unless they're willing to acknowledge those and any other of more than a dozen very high profile, very well authenticated and validated cases, I feel like it's just a bit of a dog and pony show, and we're not having true disclosure, true truth and transparency with this subject. And I honestly am not sure we're going to get it anytime soon. I think there are wonderful people in government. A lot of people are really out there searching for the truth, and I'm very excited about it because it's bringing a lot of people into this subject, and a lot of people are now questioning, are we being lied to?
mm,
And of course we are. It's demonstrably true. This cover-up is not speculation. The way I look at it is people see the government as the executive, judicial, and legislative branch, when really they're not the folks behind the cover-up.
mm.
It's the military-industrial complex. It's the highest levels of the military. It's the intelligence agencies. So our best tool at this point is to simply educate ourselves about what's going on. I am ready for disclosure. There's a term called catastrophic disclosure, which basically means that to expose all of this would cause great upset in society and a lot of damage to perhaps economics and religion and so forth. I'm of another mind. I think that what we are looking at right now is catastrophic non-disclosure
Mm.
because it's incredibly damaging to lie and not tell the truth and withhold information. I think we are ready. I think the average person on the street can absolutely adapt and handle this information. I don't think we're going to see open official contact until we grow up a little bit.
Mm.
Because certainly the ETs have told people over and over again, you need to overcome greed and corruption, pollution, destruction of the environment, war and aggression, all of these things until they can really come forward. And it's up to us to solve our own problems. So I think we're getting there. We're definitely making progress, but we still have a long way to go.
Preston, that was beautifully put. Nice job. Okay, let's do one more touch on this because the show's not really about all the complexity out there. It's just simply more opportunity for our growth, everyone's growth. But let's try. David Icke, his children have talked about a lot of stuff over the years. Other people have pointed to the military industrial complex, spy agencies, and also just networks that are transnational. Um, how do I do this without saying it on air and also getting dinged on YouTube? I think LA has a lot of traffic, and so there's always a lot of traffic going on across the globe. Maybe not cars. And then a lot of other stuff's been going on. How do you handle all that complexity? You have a wonderful way with words and a very gentle touch on how to paint the landscape. Could you touch on the complexity a touch more gently in the Preston Dennett patented method?
I'm not exactly sure what
Well,
you're
David Icke
referencing.
for a long time has referenced a lot of stuff that's a little more complex, and that there's not just generals and spy agencies involved, but there's
Oh, okay.
a wave of negativity kind of trying to run things. There's a lot of effort to control and to what else? Limit humanity's growth and also and more. How do you like to handle those complex topics? And I'm trying to dance a little here without getting in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think
You're the
I
right
hear
guy
what
for
you're
this
saying.
question. Yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah, what I see absolutely is that I don't like to use the term governments. Let's call it secret government or whatever you'd like to call the cabal. Uh, I think are painting a fear-based narrative uh, with this subject, which is not warranted and frankly not true. ETs have been around for a very long time. I think if you look at the cases of people who've had direct contact, while it can be very frightening for people, there's no evidence that ETs are here to take over, harm, or hurt. And what we see really is an agenda of guiding, teaching, healing, warning, informing, waking people up to their immortal nature, their own psychic ability, these sorts of things. And where does the evil in our world come from? I think we are all culpable to some extent. There are people who are making very poor choices, who perhaps do not have our best interests in mind. Evil is a real thing. We know that on this planet, but it's up to every single one of us to do the right thing, to allow love and truth to guide our actions. And it's never too late to turn around and make the right decision. So I think a lot of the problems we see on our own planet are our own making. Uh, and ETs have said this over and over again. They cannot come down and interfere. So we cannot blame them as much as people would like to. We have basically made our own bed, and up to us to solve our own problems. Uh, I think that there's quite a bit of disinformation and misinformation going on, and some of the negative encounters people are describing are not ET at all, but some nefarious forces, agents within our own population. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I think that generally each person does have good in them, but those who make poor choices are going to pay for it. And again, every single one of us is culpable to some extent for the events that go on this planet. Each of us has the power to change things. I know people feel powerless and say, what, I'm just one person. What can I do? Well, let's face it, nations rise and fall on the actions of one person. One person can start a movement. So it's up to all of us to do the right thing, to educate ourselves, to really move forward in peace and harmony and move towards peace on earth. There's no reason we can't do that. So I'm excited. I think that it's a wonderful gift to be human and to participate in this time on our planet, which is very exciting. Yes, there's a lot going on, but we all chose to come here. Earth is a school. It might be a tough school, but that's even a greater opportunity for all of us. So, yeah, let's do this. Let's move towards making this place a better place to live. Despite any forces here on this planet that are fighting against us, in a way, that's a blessing because it does give us, like a diamond doesn't become a diamond just by sitting there. It goes under great pressure. So this is an opportunity for all of us to really grow and become more powerful, wise, loving beings.
Well, Preston, I knew you'd nail that one, and you certainly did. I've got a saying that I've had around since about 2007. A jewel buried in the earth a million years is not discolored or harmed, and so a genuine heart can be brought out in anyone, anytime. And you reminded me of that. Also, when I asked that question, yes, you completely nailed it. Wow. So I love this. The next series of questions are going to be a little more staccato, maybe a little shorter, and they might be private, so don't feel obliged to say anything out loud. But um, have you been given your galactic background? I mean, you're a human today. Have you been shown past lives? Might we call them concurrent past lives, sort of planet Earth? Have you been shown or given, like, some Andromedan, Syrian, Pleiadian, or something? Any of that? You can just say yes and leave it at that. You can give us some detail. You can pick and choose like a buffet. I don't know which way you're going to want to do it, but guess what? You've done this, talk shows thing. You're a great show host, and you've done this a very long time. You'll sail right through this question, no problem.
I love the topic of past lives and reincarnation. Whether people believe it or not, we've all had past lives. And if you just look to your likes and dislikes, your proclivities, your talents, your phobias, they are great indicators of some of these things. Having had many astral projection experiences, I've been taken to past lives, certainly. And there's a lot of them, and some are ET. I think absolutely all of us have had ET lives because we have the opportunity to incarnate anywhere in this universe, depending on what goals we want to achieve. So I don't think there's anything woo-woo or paranormal or supernatural about it. It's part of the natural condition for any entity in this universe. Because let's face it, we're immortal. People sometimes ask me, "How old are you?" I'm like, "Well, I'm infinite, actually," which is a really wonderful thing when you think about it. such a great gift to be a part of this universe, an alive and aware entity. And yeah, it's a long pathway towards waking up to the totality of it. And I think it's going to be an endless journey. But how wonderful is that? So yeah, past lives, definitely.
Well, take us through, and this is another one of those, again, pick and choose. You may not want the meat. You want to go just vegan, go straight for the dessert at the buffet line here. Take us through a typical day for Preston, your daily routine, but more, some people call it a spiritual level. We could call it paying attention, or we'll call it growing your awareness, not your thinking. So by that, I mean, are you doing daily listening with a series of guides? Do you have a cheerleading group? Are you at least meditating? Are you communing with nature, hugging trees, listening to trees? Take us through where you're at on any given day for your slowing down to get out of your head, out of what you know, into the broader reality.
All right. Yeah, I love this. Yeah, each morning I get up and, of course, pet the dog and the cat, who are a great joy in my life. Uh, Commune with my partner. She's lovely. I love her dearly. Enjoy a cup of coffee and begin to start the new day. I work very hard doing research and putting together my videos and things like this, which I enjoy so much. And I can't call it work because I am living the dream, doing things that I've always wanted to do. So what a great joy that is to be in a space where each day is absolutely a wonderful opportunity to grow. I Look, we love gardening. We have chickens. We have a greenhouse. So we're absolutely spend some time doing that. I love music. I'm singing constantly. That brings me great joy and makes me feel this wonderful connection to the universe. I do meditate usually before bed and don't really sleep like a normal person because I like having out-of-body experiences, lucid dreams. 1/3 of our lives are spent asleep. And if you can wake up to that, it absolutely brings a whole new dimension to your life. I love reading as well. Reading is like an out-of-body experience. You can open a book and travel just about anywhere in the universe. So each day is an opportunity, and I absolutely love life. It's so much fun. Uh, yeah.
What are some of the authors that you've been really appreciating either lately or have been impactful over the last 10 to 20 years?
I read on many, many different topics. I'm an English major, so I read a lot of the classics. My true love is science fiction. So Robert Heinlein, Isaac Asimov, uh, Roger Zelazny, Clifford Simak is probably my favorite author. Loved the Harry Potter books. Those were a blast. Gene Aul, the Clan of the Cave Bear. Truly love books about survival. The Long Walk by Slavomir Rolix is kind of a sleeper of a book, but one of the best I've ever read. I've given that to many people, and every single person I've given that to has been like, wow. So I love books about sea survival and have read every book on UFOs and ghosts and that you can imagine, dreams, uh, shamanism, Eastern mysticism. It's very hard for me to pick a favorite author, but I'm always trying to expand my horizons through books, being an author myself. So that's a big, real, wonderful part of my life.
I'm going to give you a few choices here. One, we can talk like NASA, the rocket program. There's been a lot of folks who are the sons or daughters of rocket scientists that then grow up to become UFO researchers or experiencers, or just somehow it's in the family. I can name a few names. We've had Earl Grey on when he was alive, who mentioned his mom working for, I'm forgetting who the billionaire was, but the Spruce Goose, you know the name. Uh,
Hughes,
yeah,
Howard
Howard
Hughes.
Hughes. Thank you. But he described an underground base when he was a child. We've had Britt Elders, works with Shirley MacLaine, the actress, who described, her dad was a rocket scientist working with Werner von Pine. Uh, not Von Pine, sorry, that's a gentleman I worked with, Werner von Braun. Um, and seeing a UFO on a highway with the family in the car and everybody's pulled over, probably New Mexico somewhere or the Southwest. And she's taken a lot of steps on the show and been on a few times. And then we had actress, I'm going to hopefully get the name right, Camille James Harmon. I don't think her show's come out yet, but her dad was a rocket scientist working with the same gentleman. I mean, go figure. And it goes on and on. So that's door one. Door two is a little more exciting, a little more entertainment focused. There was the 1960s Star Trek series, Shatner, Nimoy, the rest. And there's something about that. And I'd love to ask you at a literature level, were the people on the ship more like angels and the people on the planets more us? So it was reversed after all these years when you look back, if that makes sense. The prime directive was not to interfere with the development of the people on the planet. Weren't we a little bit more our humanness, human beings, more like the people on the planet? And then I am going to do an offshoot of that one. There was an animated series, 73, so 1972, 73, probably only about 30 episodes or so, but they were very bold with the crew. There's MRES, Acacian, and we had other beings on the bridge. They were a little more aggressive. Now, I know the recent Star Trek films with Chris Pine have a lot of aliens and stuff like that all over the place. But back then, it was meant to break us in probably a little bit to more possibility in and around us. So there are those two topics. And the third topic is your own personal intuitive skills. What have you noticed that's come into fulfillment that you're doing really well, in addition to, or take us through some of your trips? Have you gone, we'll call it abroad, and hung out with conscious beings that are non-human? So you have three doors here. You have, the NASA stuff, scientist stuff. Talk to us on that front. That's easy with all your research. You have kind of the entertainment industry and maybe us. We've had different periods where humanity could have broken out or we were being encouraged to break out. And then finally, your own personal experiences. And maybe we'll cover all these, but which one was jumping out at you the most?
Well, my parents weren't rocket scientists, but they were wonderfully intelligent people. I was really blessed to be like the fifth youngest in the family and was treated like an adult. So I got to hang out with all the adults and really converse. We would discuss topics in depth. My father was a filmmaker, an incredibly powerful and influential man, and taught me that we have incredible power within us. My mom taught me all about love. I do have two colonels, my grandfather and my great grandfather. So there's some military in my family. I never got to meet them. But yeah, I was very blessed with wonderful parents and wonderful siblings. Uh, Star Trek, I loved Star Trek. We all loved Star Trek. Huge influence. I think he got it right. Gene Roddenberry, there's some rumors out there that he had contact because some of the details in there are so on point that I'm like, wow, there was something to this. I love the whole Star Trek story about how it barely made it onto the air. Lucille Ball saved this series and got it produced. It's just a wonderful part of American culture, I think, and we can still see its effects today. Absolutely, I'm a huge Trekkie. And as far as my own experiences, there have been so many. I could go on and on about my out-of-body experiences in which I've met spirit guides, uh, absolutely fully enlightened beings, interdimensional beings, basking in the light is described by near-death experiencers. But perhaps one of my favorite, like, otherworldly encounters was after I had interviewed a lady by the name of Dolly Saffron, a fully conscious contactee. You hang out with a lot of these contactees, you start to have experiences, share experiences with them. And she's often on board these craft, and her case is fully vetted. She's got photographic evidence, medical evidence, corroborating witnesses, a sterling resume. She's for real. And I not only believed it, but I knew it when I was taken on board her craft that she's been on and got to meet a tall gray that she's described to me many times. She refers to her as Mama. And this is a beautiful 7 foot tall being of an absolute epitome of grace and beauty and elegance and knowledge and enlightenment. And I remember being in this room, this craft that was so clean and so lovely, so filled with just goodness. There's really no other way to put it. And she walked up to me, or I walked up to her rather, and she tilted her head to the side and forward and said, "So, is this what you thought it would be like?" I said, "No, this is much better." It was a wonderful experience from beginning to end. I was allowed to explore the craft, look down upon the earth, which was definitely round, by the way. You could see it quite far below. There were other people there, other gray ETs. It was a wonderful, benevolent, loving experience from beginning to end, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Can you cover some of the other species or types of loving beings that you've met or heard about?
Yeah, it always surprises me when I hear some of the negative stories circulating around, and having talked to so many people, I get it. Can be really frightening for people when they suddenly wake up and find themselves being pulled onto a craft and meeting grays. But I have to tell you, uh, grays are perhaps the most common type people describe. And there are short little ones that are probably what we would call AI androids, biological robots perhaps, that aren't particularly emotional. They don't live, they don't die, they're machines. They don't have empathy and emotions as we would think of it. So they can be difficult for people to interact with. But the taller grays, even anywhere from 4 to 5 feet up to 6, 7, or even 8, are very loving, emotional beings. And I've had a number of people describe to me that they felt love like they've never felt before. And they will use that exact phrase. It was a love I've never felt before. And it was very much, they said, like holding your baby for the first time, or that first time you knew you had fallen in love with your spouse. So absolutely, these are really wonderful people. The contactees I've spoken to who have really moved past the fear don't call them aliens or even ETs. They just call them people. There's human-looking ones very much like us, all different ethnicities. I won't call them Nordics. I know that's a popular term. The fact is they have all different ethnicities and ancestries, whether it's Middle Eastern or Latino or Asian or what have you. Praying mantis is another type, which I find super fascinating because they move with an incredible grace. They're incredibly intelligent. They're a very, very ancient civilization and probably the ones who have the most knowledge about what's going on in the universe. But the variety is almost endless. Tiny little blue dwarf-like beings with squashed faces and tiny little eyes, or tall whites, very slender, 8, 9 feet tall or more, who look very human, but different, with very large eyes and very pale skin. Uh, so many different types. It's almost impossible to categorize. I know people say there's 5 different species visiting us.
Yeah.
Well, there's 50. No, that's a misnomer. It's really, they're all human. We are all human, all of us. This is the message from the ETs. This is not me speculating. We are all one. I can't say it enough. And I think it's a beautiful thing when you think about it. For us to be able to join the galactic community is something that we should really strive for, because that would really, I think, answer all the questions surrounding this subject. And we'll get there. It's just we still have a lot of work to do.
Can you also just touch upon either Pleiadians, people from Andromeda, Orion? I'm going to skip a bunch here. Arcturians, Lyrans. I think I'm still skipping. If I didn't say Sirius as well. Not trying to sound too serious here, but can you pick some of those, any experiences there directly for you?
Certainly, I've had experiences with some different types. Uh, Again, I think we love labels, and the ETs don't necessarily call themselves by these labels, but will allow us to do so. I do believe Orion is a constellation star system that comes up quite a bit in terms of the grays coming from that location. Zeta Reticula, behind the Pleiades, the Delphinus system, which I think is one of the reasons we hear the name Pleiades being brought up. But from what I can understand, these are largely our own labels, which ETs will allow, but ultimately their answer is that these are labels and that we are all very closely related. So again, I think it's a mistake to think in the idea of us and them as being different, because they all cooperate. They don't have a police force. They don't have prisons. They don't have crime. They've conquered disease largely. They all work together. They have no federalized system. They don't have money. This is one of the driving forces behind the cover-up, is if humanity knew that there were people out there who have moved past all the problems that we have here, it would, the real ET threat, this is how I'll put it, is to the power structure and the control of humanity for the power elite, the cabal, call them what you want. That's the ET threat to their control over humanity. So I think that's the force behind the cover-up, and this is why we're being visited. And yeah, we're free to call them what we want, but ultimately they're just people. Look at our planet. Look at how many types of people we have, from very short pygmy type people to the very tall Watusi, every skin color, every size of eyes, nose, mouth, hair. It's so beautiful. And it's something I think that is a tremendous opportunity for us to learn. Like, wow, these people are different, but they're really not. We're not about skin color or the shape of your body or the color of your eyes or your hair or anything like this. If you were to take everyone on Earth and line them up and stick in some Pleiadians or Greys or Mantids or whatever, they would fit right in. So this is again a point I'm really trying to drive home is we're not all that different. I love the fact that we have some differences, and this is so wonderful, something to celebrate, certainly, but it shouldn't be something that's divisive. So, yeah, that's kind of my assessment of this. We're all one.
It's a little bit like a 1960s Star Trek episode with Shatner and Nimoy. A little bit, in terms of planet Earth and us getting visited, but not necessarily by the Starship Enterprise. We had a guest on once, known in New Zealand for a pretty famous near-death experience event. I think she was the only survivor in a vehicle. I don't remember the details. I think it was like a construction accident. Heavy equipment fell on the car. She was the survivor, 20-something operations. Still had glass coming out later, shards. They couldn't get everything out of it through her skin when the body was pushing it out. She's a water consciousness researcher, like the gentleman who's passed away in Japan. So she's very successful at that, always sold out for her speaking engagements. But she shared on the show another near-death experience where she disappeared in the water, technically drowned, Coast Guard looking for her, I believe New Zealand. They found her on rocks, but the time had elapsed 3 hours, and she might have been visiting, we'll say, family underwater, beings that are more underwater. So if we could tackle that as well, I know it's all the same at one level, but we have not talked about the Earth's oceans, how much we're covered in water, and there are perhaps different civilizations there. She might have, and I forget the details. The shows blend together, but it was a beautiful description, and it was very friendly, and they kept her alive and brought her back to a rock. And that was over the course of 3 hours. The Coast Guard had no way of explaining, what happened. She should have drowned completely. Could you touch upon the water side of things? Not really USOs, but more any awareness you have on the civilization front for other beings below the surface, the nice ones. There might be one or two that are a little less friendly towards humans.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that there are really any negative beings visiting our planet. Uh, I don't know that they have the technology to do that. At any rate, we I think here on Earth, think of ourselves as the only species that's sentient living on this planet. And we now know that that's simply not true. The more we research the many different animals, what we call animals, on this planet, we realize they're very intelligent, very much sentient. I mean, there's research into crows and ravens, which are showing that they have the intelligence equal to chimpanzees and other animals that we think of as being really intelligent. I mean, there's studies on some dogs who know 1,000 words. I think what we're looking at here is a humbling experience where we're starting to realize that we share this planet with all these species who are truly sentient, perhaps not in the same way we are, but absolutely 100% aware, and in many cases more aware than humans. The cetaceans have a very advanced civilization and probably an oral history reaching back a very long time. Reptilians, I think, are not necessarily extraterrestrials, but perhaps crypto-terrestrials who get something of a bad rap. And I think there's a lot of disinformation, but I've interviewed people who had very wonderful encounters with what we would call reptilians. The Sasquatch people. Became a Bigfoot researcher, had a few of my own encounters. The evidence for them is outstanding. It's absolutely 100% conclusive in my assessment. They're seen pretty much everywhere on this planet, different types, very small, hairy beings to very, very tall, to some who are very much human-like and would probably be best categorized as perhaps Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal or wild men, who are absolute. I know it sounds crazy, but if you do your research, you'll find that these people do exist. Our planet has all kinds of beings on it. And another that is often overlooked or relegated to folklore, shouldn't be, and that is what we would call the little people, fairy folk, gnomes, beings of this kind, and they are 100% real. Absolutely. I've interviewed people who've seen these folks. They are interdimensional. They do have very advanced psychic abilities and can disappear at will, but uh, it's not relegated to ancient history by any means. These are modern day events that are still happening, don't get a lot of coverage, but they share this planet with us too. So it's no surprise to me at all when people describe these kinds of events. Remember Elian Gonzalez, who was going from Cuba and his boat was sunk and he was saved by dolphins. They saved his life. Many cases of this kind of thing. So it's really wonderful when you think about the fact that no, we're not alone on this planet. People will often tell me, "Oh, I wish I could see an extraterrestrial, an alien." I'm like, look around. Go to your dog and really study your dog, your cat. Look at the birds, look at the animals, look at the plant life even on this planet. We have a really wonderful opportunity here. Betty Andreasen was a contactee. The Greys kept telling her that love is the answer for humankind, and all the answers you seek can be found within the natural world that surrounds you. I thought it was a beautiful message, and absolutely think it's true. So yeah, we share this planet with a lot of 100% sentient beings. And I've got so many stories, amazing animal stories. I always ask this about contactees because they're woken up to this. Every single one of them, almost without exception, has amazing animal stories where they communicate with animals in a very sentient way. So let's not overlook the fact that we share this planet with all kinds of wonderful beings.
We've had on the Bigfoot front, we've had Arla Collette Williams, who's wonderful. We've probably had her on 3 times. Absolutely love interacting with her. If you recognize the name on the Bigfoot front, she came on with Tom Control when he was still alive, who's done a lot of books on Bigfoot. I'll mention the David Paulides interview, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, with the Navajo Ranger, who's been on a lot of different shows. Wonderful fellow. That interview was just, it connected so many dots at so many levels. Um, what I wanted to get to is back to animals. I saw a dog pass by. How good are you at listening to Fido at your end? Are they like third or fourth graders for you? Can you hear the voice like daddy, daddy, let's go for a walk? Where are you for your own dog communication?
Dog Duchess is really psychic, and we've tested this. You can call out to her and she will come. She I've had out of body experiences with her, and she said, "My name is Duchess, and I love you." And it was just the loveliest thing to see. She is absolutely a gorgeous creature. Our cat is hyper aware. She's looking at things in the house that we can't see. So yeah, I absolutely love pets. My partner Dolly Saffron was a zookeeper. She has a million stories like this that are mind-blowing. And yeah, I mean the whole animal world is absolutely well, guess
Oh,
who's guess who's
well,
coming here to say hello?
well, we'll start to wrap it up, but before we do, I'll show a dog photo. That's Joy. She passed away in October across the Rainbow Bridge, but she's named after the very first angel I usually introduce people to. An angel named Joy is the emotion Joy, very high vibe. And my point on this is when Joy comes through on the other side, she does it like if anyone's ever seen an NFL game and the players went to Ohio State. They introduced themselves, John Smith from the Ohio State. Well, my dog comes through and says, Joy the dog, to distinguish herself from Joy the angel. So I always laugh at that. With your permission, I'd love to light some sage. We might take two other steps. I think we did a few before the show. We'll see what happens. There's no pressure here, but would it be okay to light and blow a little sage from Texas to, I assume, California right now?
I'm on the East Coast,
Oh,
northern Georgia.
Oh, you're in Georgia right now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll light some sage and we'll see what happens. Folks at home, we've done this on a lot of shows. There's joint smelling. Try to view it as no time and space and just allow. What would you do before you go for a swim, play a video game, hold someone's hand, pet the dog, walk the dog? But you can't be on an iPhone when you walk the dog and truly enjoying it. Maybe you can. Okay, here's some sage. You may already be getting it. I haven't even started wafting it yet. You might get campfire smoke, you might get tobacco, you can ask for cedar, pine. We don't even light stuff and people are getting the smell if it's a Native American chief helping out. Um, what are you getting right now, Preston? Anything in Georgia?
Well, if I use my inner senses, as I would call them, yes. And it's a great way to connect to spirits when you smell their perfume or all kinds of odors is one of the real powerful ways of increasing your psychic ability. Uh, so yeah,
Okay. And I'll put up a piece of selenite crystal. It's pretty. I'm hearing it was like something similar in Disclosure. Somebody brought that up in a panel yesterday. This is just selenite, straight, beautiful crystal. But if you want to go crazy wild, you can allow for sound ball effect, literally hear music around you. But if you want to just put a hand up, if you don't have both hands on the pooch, you can feel the vibe or use all of you to feel some light energy. Just let us know if you're getting something, whatever your words that you would like to share out loud. This should be just high vibe stuff. What are you getting?
yeah, I love crystals. If you see behind me on my bookshelf, I have a whole bunch of them. It's really interesting to me because a lot of contactees really enjoy the crystal energy. I think there's something to that, absolutely. So yeah, I appreciate that very much.
Okay. And would it be okay to show some light on my fingers as a final act? And then we're going to have you wrap up. You've done enough shows. You've been both a guest a million times and a show host a million times that you know how to close us out. You've been giving us beautiful messages of love. And I always like to say, show love always. Good luck with that when you're thinking, but for the rest of the time, you're here more than you realize. Does it sound like a plan to go ahead and just do a little bit of light? You get a dad joke out of this, a new dad joke. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how I got all my dad jokes. It was back at university medical school in Cape Town, South Africa. I double majored in cloning and hide and seek. I never finished the program. I had to take a year off to find myself. Cloning, hide and seek. Okay, I'm gonna just do a little bit of light between my fingers and let us know what you see. It's if folks at home just see with your heart, give yourself permission to let go, and you'll see a little filament of light. And Preston, what are you getting for a little squiggle or a wisp?
Yeah, absolutely. The black background helps. That's how I'm best at seeing auras. And when I'm out of body, I can see auras very well. But yeah, we all have this, so it's awesome that you are doing this and giving people the opportunity.
Okay, well, I'm going to read one quote from an angel. This is from 10 or 12 years ago. Archangel Uriel gave us a beautiful quote. I'd love to have it be like a diving board for you to propel us into a closing statement. Archangel Uriel said, if more people would listen, less conflict would arise in any given situation. And with that, if you could close us out.
Well, first, Michael, I'd just like to thank you for this opportunity. I had a lovely time, and I think that my advice to people would be just to allow love and truth to guide your actions. And what I'd really like to do is read a quote directly from an ET that was given to my favorite contactee, Dolly Saffron. It's quite short. It's called Be Strong in Love. Love is what carries through. Love is what heals. Love is the strength of life. Love has no limit. Therefore, let love become who you are. Let love evolve to its fruition. Let the light that is love burn bright. Let its wisdom guide you to higher understanding. Let its power move you to teach its power to others. Love, be strong in love. So, yeah, love is the answer. Let's embrace it.
Preston, you're super gentle and a total delight to have as a show guest. So thank you very much for the gentleness and for all the sharing that you're doing with all of us. Thank you.
Pleasure and an honor. Thank you.